Hi everyone, Ron Crider reporting for duty again today, this time for the Catholic Radio Association. I'm now a board member, a director of the Catholic Radio Association, so proud to be so. And my first little assignment here was to come up with, using some of my experience of having built many Catholic radio stations all over the United States. And there are a number of people out there that are about to build some of these LP stations, and they're kind of a little stumbled and stuck because they're not quite sure, well, where do we go and what do we do and how do we do this? So let me kind of give you a little snapshot here, and I'm going to do several videos, but let's go with this one first. So the first thing about building a Catholic radio station, first, it is a very noble thing for you to do. A lot of the folks who go out there and start a Catholic radio station have absolutely no experience in radio and broadcasting. The FCC attorneys, you don't go to your local attorney, you go to an FCC attorney. Those guys are usually in Washington, D.C., and things such as that. We'll tell you more about those later. We work with a company by the name of Carl T. Jones, an engineering firm that's been in business for over 80 years in Washington, D.C. Our person there is Herman Hurst. We'll tell you more about him in another video. Now, I want to say one other thing about this. You got to understand something about this, these radio stations. Just because it's a nonprofit, so your station will be a nonprofit 501c3. Anybody who donates money to it will get a tax deduction. But it doesn't change the fact that operating a Catholic radio station is a business. It's a real, honest-to-goodness business. It has to be operated as a business. The last thing you want to do is get this radio station on the air, somehow or other come up with an amount of money it takes to build it, put it on the air, and 3, 4, 5 months later, it's off the air because you ran out of money and you can't afford to pay for it. Bad idea. So you need to really be sure about that. Before starting a radio station, one needs to understand the budget and determine if this budget or a budget that you come up with is a reasonable budget and is workable. So let's take a look at this. First, it's going to cost, this is the least amount of money that I can tell you it will cost to operate a LP Catholic radio station, about $20,000 a month. And by the way, that $20,000 a month, $24,000 a year, does not include your antenna rental space for your antenna, or space for your studio. But let me tell you about that. We'll get into that in just a second. Let's take a look first at the actual monthly operating budget for the radio station. Now, this is using a 150-watt Nautel transmitter, so we don't know how much power your station is going to have, but the average would be about $150 a month for electricity. These are based on rates here in Florida that we pay down here. Telephone, more or less $50. You may want to have a special telephone number for the radio station that people would call in on, and you could put them on the air, so you'll have to allocate money for that. You may not need one. You can take that out. The internet, you definitely need to have internet. That's $100 a month because you're probably going to receive all of your audio from either EWTN or Relevant Radio, and that will come in on a receiver that's set up in your studio, but it will all come in on the internet. I do strongly recommend, I'm trying to do this at a minimum at the moment, I strongly recommend that if it's possible to have two sources of internet, like a Comcast and a Verizon or something such as that. So if one goes down, you have another one to keep you going. Website, definitely have to have a website for your radio station because that's where you're going to be able to do your streaming and be able to put your program guide and all that sort of thing up. Streaming is really important. Low power stations only cover 10 to 12 miles, but with streaming, you can listen to the radio station anywhere in the world, and it only costs $50 a month to be able to do that. And in addition to that, this is like really important. There are these things called Alexa receivers or Alexa Echoes or Alexa Dots. These are little devices that you can buy. They're not expensive. They're anywhere from $35 to $150, $200, depending on how big you want the screen and what you want it to do. But nonetheless, Amazon has sold 500 million, that's with an M, 500 million of these things worldwide. And once you get signed up to be on the internet and do your streaming, there will be a special application where you will say, Alexa, play WJPP from TuneIn, or Alexa, play WJPP. Bingo, right there it is. It's going to show up, it's going to start playing, and it's really terrific. It's a great idea. People use them, especially older people. It's great for them. I have a little one, a 5-inch one, that I carry with me when I travel all over the world, and I'm always able to log into that and be able to hear exactly what all my stations are doing, and it's really great. Plus, I listen to some other stations that I like to listen to in the middle of the night. I'm kind of an insomniac. All right, next is your insurance. Everybody has to have insurance for their equipment. Music fees, you have to have music fees, and you get those through the Catholic Radio Association. Engineering, you're going to have it. Obviously, I'm in engineers, and look at that. I got the biggest number in the budget, but you're going to have somebody that makes sure your transmitter is running okay. This person should also be knowledgeable in the automation system that you use. We recommend using Simian Simian Automation Pro. It's very good. I've been working with that company. By the way, I don't make any money off of any of this stuff that I'm projecting up here. I'm not selling you anything. But when I say we recommend Simian from Broadcast Software International, I've been working with them since before Cumulus bought the company. I started working with them after Cumulus bought the company, right about that time, because I thought, well, if Cumulus is going to use this automation system in all of their radio stations, it's going to definitely work for our little radio station. And I can tell you, I have vast experience in using the Simian automation system in stations all over the United States and all over the world. And it's really good, and it's very, very, very reliable. I have heard people say, oh my goodness gracious, Simian, it's terrible, it's awful. Well, clearly they don't know what they're talking about, because there are thousands and thousands of people who use the Simian automation, and it works really, really well, and it's quite simple to use. Repair and maintenance, $100 a month, $1,200 a year. You're going to have all brand new equipment, so initially your repair and maintenance is going to be slim to none. Office supplies, $50 a month, and that's just miscellaneous things that you have to buy, letterheads and any kind of little printing that you will be doing with $600 a year. FCC fees, there's a certain amount of money every year you have to pay. I think it's $160 a year, but I put down $25 a month, $300 a year. State fees, there's a fee to have your 501c3 here in the state of Florida. I think it's $160 a year. I put $300 down, and because these numbers can all be juggled around once you get going. Then you have your local fees. You may need a local business license, and that's generally much less than $300 a year, $25 a month. Legal fees, this would cover, say, your FCC attorney. Once you're set up and running, you're really going to have very few legal fees, and we'll talk more about that in the future. I did not include studio rent, and I did not include tower rent, and then I have a miscellaneous $116 to round it out to about $1,600 a month, $20,000 a year. This could escalate to $25,000 a year if you did have to pay studio rent and tower rent. Now let's talk about the studio rent. Frequently in the studio rent, you can put your studio in one of your parishes there, and if you have a really good relationship with your bishop, perhaps he will welcome you having your studio in one of the parishes, little teeny office. You don't need a big office. The equipment wouldn't take up more than the desk itself is 60 inches wide and 30 inches deep, and on that desk is the computer. Everything sits on that desk or under the desk. You have 2 chairs that sit in front of it, and you're off and running, and you'll have 3 monitors there. So that's a place to go. You may not have to pay anything, or you'll do a kind of a trade deal with them, and you'll run masses for them every day on the air. That's the best approach. A lot of radio stations have their studios in the diocese. You can put them in an underwriter's office, and then kind of do a trade deal with the underwriter. You give him underwriting messages, and he gives you a little office to put your equipment in. Or you can actually put it in your house. There's nothing wrong with having it in your house. You have to tell the FCC exactly where it is, but it's perfectly okay to do so. Now, the antenna space is a little bit more difficult because the antenna is going to be located on a tower about 100 feet high or less, not really sure, or more. The higher the better, of course, but as you put it up higher, then your power will come down. But higher is always better, and it could go on a water tower. If your parish has a steeple on the parish, you could put it on the steeple somewhere. We've done that many times, water towers, or a local radio station tower. Now, if you have a good friend who owns a radio station, a local station, he's a Catholic guy, you might say, hey, buddy, can you do me a favor? I got to have one little antenna. This little antenna weighs like 15 pounds. It's not heavy at all. one little antenna and a half-inch piece of transmission line that's going to run up there. Can you do a deal with me? And maybe he'll do a deal with you, and maybe he'll help you with your radio station, and you won't have to pay anything. So it's very, very important. I stress this all the time, to be creative when you put this together, because once you sign up for a studio rent and you build your studio and you're paying $500 a month, you're going to be paying $500 a month for a long time, and sometimes getting out of those leases is hard. It's the same thing with the tower deal. Now let's move on here to the hardware. This is the expensive part. So it's $30,000, and you can build an entire LP/FM station for $30,000 or less. You can also spend $50,000, $75,000. I built stations that weren't low power stations, but they were Catholic stations. They were $150,000. But I've tried to come up with a number that has worked for me in many of the stations that I put together for people. And I always use a Nautel transmitter. I don't have anything to do with Nautel. They're a Canadian company. They have offices up in Maine also, in the United States. But they build the best radio transmitter that I'm aware of. I've had Nautels everywhere. Why do I have them? I'd rather spend the money one time on the transmitter and not have to have an engineer go out every couple of months and mess with it and try to fix it and be off the air and so forth and so on. As an engineer, I don't like saying this, but I personally would much rather not have to go there and deal with the transmitter. I don't have many Nautels that have hardly ever broken. I can't remember one. I had one in Colorado Springs, a 10 kilowatt Nautel transmitter. As long as I owned the radio station, it never broke. We cleaned it, messed with it a little bit to keep it up to date and clean it, but we never ever had an issue with it. We have a one bay antenna. There's a little piece of transmission line. It's only a half inch that runs up the tower from the transmitter to the antenna, wherever that's going to be. You're required to have an EAS system, emergency alert system. That's the thing that comes on the air that's very annoying. And they say this is a test once a month. We're doing an EAS test, but it's required to have it. We have a little Mackie mixer, very inexpensive mixing board where you'll run your microphone through it and you can do some live shows. Very inexpensive mixer, which is not a big giant studio mixer, but it's perfect for the job. DBX compressor, this is for the stream, because you're going to do your streaming. You want to make sure that the levels on the stream are very good. By the way, the transmitter has its own audio processor built into it, so you won't be using the DBX on what's going out over the air. The transmitter has a terrific audio processor in it. It's made by Orban, and it's absolutely the best. I use these Heil PR30s and PR40 microphones. They're very good mics. They're made here in the United States. Sony earphones, we know about those. I strongly urge everybody to use a switcher, the audio switcher. And the reason for that is, if your automation system should fail, you just push the button on the switcher and it keeps either EWTN or relevant radio on the air until you can get your computer fixed. Without the switcher, you may have a difficulty staying on the air if your computer fails. You don't want that. The switcher is a great safety net. Barracks 100 Xtremer, that's how you're going to receive either EWTN or relevant radio. Art Cleanbox Pro is necessary because the Xtremer is sort of a consumer type device, but it's RCA jacks and you need XLR jacks. So you come out of the Xtremer and go into the Art Cleanbox Pro, and then you come out of there and you go into the switcher. I included in here the installation for the studio, the installation for the antenna, freight charges for the equipment that will be sent in there. I included the Simian Pro, which is $2,000. That's how much that software costs, one-time cost. BSI production software, it's almost $300, $250, I think. And that is so that you can go in and edit things and not be messing around with the on-the-air software. Audio card, very expensive audio card. I can't believe these audio cards are close to $1,000, but they're really, really good. They do a terrific job. There's a lot of reasons why you want to have an ASI audio card. And also, it lets you record things at the same time as you're running something on the air, recording something different. 3 computers involved here. Most of these 3 computers are all Dell computers. One is your Simian computer, one is your production computer to record your underwriting on, and one is your streaming computer. 3 monitors, 24-inch monitors with mounting brackets. Natural log light. This is how you build your logs. And if you work with me, and I'll be happy to help you out, you just give me a call. I'll let you know what my phone number is. You give me a call and I'll help you build the logs. I have all these logs already built for EWTN and for relevant radio, and we can just drop them into your automation system, and off you go, and you'll be off and running. And I'll be happy to give you some classes, and I have videos all over the place showing how to do this. Desk and rack shelves and so forth. This is a desk rack. It's about 3 feet high, and this is where a lot of the equipment will go on your desk. And you'll set it on your desk so that you can get behind it and swing it around if you need to get into it. And there's a UPS, an uninterruptible power supply in there, so that the power does go off. All your equipment will continue to run for 15, 20 minutes until it hopefully comes back. The desk, it's kind of an expensive desk, $300 or $400. It's a 30 by 60 desk. 2 desk chairs. The XDS receiver, this is an expensive receiver. This isn't a new receiver. I suggest buying these. They're always available used, and I can get them for under $1,000 all the time. They sell new for about $2,500. Little monitor radio so that you can have it sitting in your studio and it will play your radio station so you can hear it over the air. A gigabyte switch, 16-port switch. You'll plug all of your computers and so forth into this, what they call a dumb switch. And then there's a bunch of cables and connectors. Anyway, bottom line is you'll need $30,000 to put this deal together to buy the radio station, have the radio station operating. Now, I haven't said anything in here yet about the FCC or how you get your license and all that. I put this together specifically for the Catholic Radio Association, for people who already have a license for their Catholic radio station, but they have yet to build it. The next video I do, I'm going to tell you more about the operation of the radio station around this $30,000 for this equipment and around the budget. I will also tell you, or I'll explain to you, how we have been able to raise $3,000 to $5,000 a month for the Catholic radio stations so that they can continue to operate. Remember, this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. Absolutely not. You shouldn't go into this if you think this is a business and I'm going to make a lot of money having a Catholic radio station. Bad idea. You want to go into this and make it as good as you possibly can. I'm going to tell you one other thing. This is so important. Very, very important that once you get this station ready to go on the air, that everything you do in really good quality. Like all the audio files need to be the same audio level. And I'll show you how to make sure that that's correct, so that every time an audio file plays, it's not going to be, one's going to be high and one's going to be low. Even though there's an audio processor there to take care of it, it's best to have them all the same level. And furthermore, it's always really, really important that they all be timed perfectly. 30 seconds, 15 seconds, 60 seconds, 90 seconds, 2 minutes. There's free software made by Audacity that lets you put that file in there and punch a button and it will retime everything to be exactly the right time as it needs to be. But there's nothing I hate worse when I hear somebody say, oh, that's that Catholic station. They don't have a clue as to what they're doing. They're not really broadcasters. I listen to them sometimes, but they're really terrible. I never, ever, ever want to hear that again. I want us to be the gold standard. We may be a little radio station, but we're going to be the best little radio station anybody ever tuned into. So with that, I'm going to take my leave at the moment. I'll get back to you again another day, and we'll have another video, and we'll start talking about how to operate the radio station once you have bought the equipment and once you've all put it all together. Thanks for watching the video. Have a great day.